Thank you so much, Brett, for that introduction. I am excited to be here this afternoon doing the keynote presentation. I am keeping you from dinner, so I will do my very best to also keep you awake through this presentation, through this engaging conversation about choosing your own adventure. So let me kind of start things off here. I have something to share. I have a secret that I'm going to keep between the 300 of us and what they're going to project here on the video. Sometimes I follow someone else's path, what someone else tells me I need to do, right? And it becomes frustrating and confusing because it wasn't my idea, and it becomes boring. So what I end up doing is kicking that to the curb and going back and following my path. I go back to being me. As Brett said before, again, my name is Crystal Richards, and I'm the owner of my own talent development consulting firm, where I focus on training people to be better project managers. That scales from teaching them the fundamentals of project management to getting them ready for the PMP credential. Through my work, I have worked with dozens, I think it would be a bit exaggerated to say hundreds of people, I'll pump myself up, but dozens of people where they ask me my opinion as to what I think they should be doing with their careers. Crystal, I think I should get this certification. Well, I think I should take this job. I think I should do this. Crystal, what do you think? And my answer is, well, what do you want? Choose your own adventure, because you're the star of your journey. So let's back up a little bit here about what choose your own adventure is all about. If you remember way back when, look, it's cutie patootie right here. Way back when, in the 80s, if you were a kid growing up in the 80s, you probably had to read books. Remember those summer programs where you got the stickers? And one of those books was probably a choose your own adventure book. And if you read one, you probably read a couple. And the premise behind those books is that they put you in the driver's seat. You get to make decisions about what's the next course of action you're going to take. What are you going to do if you have a charging bull coming after you? You get to decide. Now, it's different from our normal books, right? Because they already tell the story. But with Choose Your Own Adventure, you get to decide and choose what direction you're going to take. Now, by a show of hands, how many of you are familiar with this book? All right, great, a lot more hands. These are the people my age, 25. If you're not familiar with these books, though, maybe you are familiar with the variation of Pick Your Own Quest, or You Get to Choose Which Way Adventures, or the now technologically advanced one from Netflix, Black Mirror, right? Which they kind of got in trouble with Choose Your Own Adventure, by the way. But going back to those books, and I have kind of as my prop up here, if anybody's curious about looking at those relics, and if you are really curious about those books, you can take one home. Actually, please, I don't want to take this back with me to DC. But these books provide an opportunity at key plot points where you can make a decision about what you should do. And what I'm going to kind of argue, if you will, for our conversation today is when it comes to your career, choose your own adventure. So how do you do that? Well, in the journey, I'm going to recommend that you stop comparing. Examine yourself instead. Reflect on what are your strengths, your weaknesses, what are your goals, your talents. Take the lessons learned of those decisions that you've made and the decisions of others to help you go in the right direction. And then last, find your tribe. People who are going to support you, who have your back. These mile markers, we're going to go through each one of these one by one. And as Brett said before, I'm going to put you to work. So if you already have that Rihanna song in your head, that earworm, you're welcome. These tips that I'm going to share with you have helped me to stay focused and be true to myself and have peace in the decisions that I make. Because a lot of times we get caught up in this, I don't know which way to go. Make a decision and learn from it. I hail from Memphis, Tennessee. Y'all with me on that? Okay. So let's go to the first mile marker. This is to stop comparing. Now, the thing about comparing ourselves is that I'll concede this is as old as mankind, right? This is called social comparison theory. We compare ourselves to others so that we can see how we fare and how we stack up to someone else in terms of how well they're doing or how bad off they're doing. There are many reality shows that allow us to do that, right? 90 Day Fiancé. So those shows, those opportunities of comparison allow us to see, am I smarter? Are they smarter? Are they wealthier? Do they have more success? And in a way, comparing does allow us an opportunity to improve our self-image, improve our areas around motivating where we want to go and the next steps in our career. And they give us an opportunity to improve our self-image. Way back in the day, social comparison was where we would look at our neighbor across the way and see how many cows and goats they have, right? In modern day times, we look at the curb appeal of our neighbor's house, what school our kids go to. And we use this opportunity to compare to see how we look in terms of wealth, intelligence, success. But nowadays, what's amplifying social comparison? What's taking it to the max? Social media. Oh my gosh. If you're having a bad day, do not go on social media. You will have this feeling that, what's wrong with me? What am I doing wrong? But the thing about social media, most times, what kind of information do people put on social media? Their falsehoods, lies, their best self, their A game. Nobody's putting on there, oh, I just got fired from my job and I don't understand why no one respects me. We're like, get a therapist, right? So the irony is we don't want to see that negative stuff, but then we go nuts when people are like, look at me, look at my best self. The person that got fired, what they say is, me and my employer mutually agreed that we're going to go our separate ways. You mutually agreed not to show up to your job, and that got you fired. But they're not putting that on social media. When instead, they have something like this, right? So you're like, man, he's a blockchain enthusiast, a serial entrepreneur, a father. I love this one because I could totally steal this one. What is it? There's 1% of LinkedIn profiles, top 1%. Totally could put that on there, right? But he's really this. So you get caught up in all these titles and taglines, and they're doing this and that. But we don't know the full story. We don't know what they had to go through, whether it was something positive. We don't know if they actually are going through something. So here's where I say stop comparing. When this person shows up, the green-eyed monster, that's jealousy personified. When we start getting into the hateration, you're being a hater, and you're saying things like, I wonder what, who, well, we won't say it, but you know what you say. This is where, when we get into depression, anxiety, when we say things like, I have to unplug. Well, maybe you have gone down that route that you've let jealousy creep its ugly head. What it comes to around social comparison, because we're always comparing ourselves. Am I right? We're always comparing ourselves. But here's my encouragement for you around this. Social comparison and comparing ourselves, think about not so much about what they're doing and what you're not doing, but look at it as an opportunity where you can improve yourself and better yourself. Y'all with me on that? See as where that person is as a baseline to establish what you want for yourself. Social comparison doesn't have to be about, well, they did this, I need to do it too, because then that's going to lead you down someone else's path that may not be your own. Y'all with me on that? It's okay to say preach. I'm just to let you know. This is a case of recognizing, run your own race. That person who's on their chapter 19, you can't compare yourself when you're on chapter 1. I am taking up golf. How many of you think it's a good idea that I compare myself to Tiger Woods? I don't think so, but some of you are trying to compare yourselves to the Tiger Woods out there, the Denzel Washingtons, the Cardi B's. Don't do that one. When we don't know what hurdles they had to go through. Everybody else has their own challenges, their own hurdles. We have to get through our own hurdles and our own challenges as well to get to the place that we want to be of what we call success. And quite frankly, what one person's success may not be what's success for you. You know who your competition is? Boom, you. Look in the mirror. That's who you have to look at in terms of pushing yourself. Have you established goals for yourself? Are you pushing yourself to reach those goals? Or are you basing your goals on what someone else has established? That's not going to get you very far because you're going to be frustrated. You're going to get bored because it may not be what's right for you. So speaking of yourself, this takes us to our next mile marker of examining yourself. You incorporated. Do you know what your talents and strengths are? Have you done that assessment? What's the definition of success for yourself? Have you defined that? What are things wild horses can't make you do? Have you figured that out? I live in the D.C. area. I'll be doggone if I take a job in Virginia. I live in Maryland. Anybody from D.C. area? You know what I'm talking about, right? It's like going to another country. And it's only 16 miles. Wild horse, there's not really a job. And someone's like, Chris, I have $1 million contract. Well, okay, then maybe I'll do it. One other aspect of self-assessment is figuring out what lights your fire. Not just at work, but we have things outside of work that light our fire. As a business owner of my company, I am more than my company. If I let my company be my end-all, be-all, hey, I recognize I'm going to do everything I can to be successful, but it may not be successful. And if I wrap myself in all of that, not recognizing there are other things that make me be me, then I'm losing touch of what's important. Is everybody with me on that? So take a moment, because I actually do. So as you're following along and writing along, I'll be pointing out specific things. But I want you to take a few moments to write down what lights your fire. The top 3 things. I'll give you 72 seconds. Anybody remember that from P&P class? 72 seconds per question. I was like, oh. So it's page 5. Page 5. The top of page 5. What lights your fire? All right, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to kind of like, you can decide. You can choose your own adventure in this one. I'm going to go row by row, not row by row, just kidding. I'm going to go section by section, front half of the room and the back half of the room. Hopefully you can figure out where you are in terms of front versus back. For those of you in the back that answer when I say front half, then we have some depth perception issues that we'll deal with later. So on this side, because I was on that side this morning, and I'm going to give you some love. So I'm going to give you some love and give you eye contact. And yes, I have an astigmatism, so don't worry about that. So on this, she's like, where is she looking? So on this front half, just a couple of you yell out. And keep in mind, this is recorded, so give us the clean stuff. What lights your fire? What lights your fire? Travel. What else? Learning. Love it. What about on this front half? Family. What else? Respect. I love it. What about on this side, the front half? Say it again. Winning. Cleaning? Winning. I was like, how can I get your number? Winning. What else? A challenge. All right, I'm going to go on this side, the back half of the room. What lights your fire? Growth. What else? Fun. What about on this back half? Volunteering, problem solving. And last group. Community. One more. Uno más. Outdoors. I love it. Are you taking the time to take advantage of those things that light your fire? Are you getting consumed of what other people tell you, what other people tell you to do? And you're not doing the things that give you growth, that give you breadth and depth of who you are. What lights my fire, and I worked with a manager out of Memphis, Tennessee, so she would always say fire. So what lights my fire? Girlfriend time, wineries, taking my senior dog to this day, and he just turned 12, he still loves to go for a walk. He is just a happy camper. Gardening. Dates. My husband is awesome. This is recorded. But he totally, but he does. He totally plans all of our get-togethers, our dates. I love it. No pressure, dudes. But I have such a great time. And it's the weekends where I can take advantage of these items. And if I'm consumed into doing things that don't matter to me, then I don't get an opportunity to do the things that do matter to me. Y'all with me on that? One tool that I like to use to kind of examine myself, every year I create my user's manual. How many of you have done this before or have seen something like this before? There have been some articles out there. I'm happy to send you a link to this, but there have been articles on LinkedIn in particular about creating your user's manual, pushing that power button, and what makes me tick and what makes me melt down. Now, there are managers out there that actually share this. Some things I have kind of personal, so I'm not sharing this with anybody from my team, but this is something that I use as perspective and reflection. And you'll see that it's 4.2. 4.3 is coming out March 11th. But I have my mission. Some of you have a mission statement. Some of you might want to consider a mission statement so that it's a constant reminder. When I have someone asking me to do this major consulting project that has nothing to do with training, I know what's important to me. Yeah, it may be a lot of money, but I have done that before. I have worked on a project that did not give me joy, and I was miserable. They created my path. I didn't. Have my warning signs? I too need to unplug from social media. But I have a team that works with me and says, Crystal, you need to post. All right, fine. So this is something I love doing. Like I said, this is, you can do. I have in your resource guide some notes to take for yourself, but this is a creative way to kind of think outside of the box as to what makes you tick. Let's go now into our 3rd mile marker. Because in doing that light my fire exercise, hopefully you kind of reevaluated and thought about and learned about new things about yourself, like, yeah, I do like doing this, and I haven't taken time. So with lessons learned, keep learning. So I heard someone over here say, learning lights my fire. We can learn from those decisions. Remember when you choose your own adventure? Fortunately, in the books, they're harmless. But in real life, we are making decisions all the time. Hopefully, we're making good decisions, but sometimes we don't make so great decisions. And it's the great decisions we don't look back, we just keep going, right? Woo, I'm the man, I'm the woman. It's the bad decisions, though, we want to make sure that we take the opportunity to look back and learn from that. I'm going to shamelessly steal from what I saw on Twitter yesterday about Rob Harr's presentation. You come to the table with 2 things, baggage and wisdom. Your lessons learned is the wisdom that you can bring back so that you can grow. Y'all with me on that? And learning not only from your missteps, but you have opportunities to learn from others. So I want to talk a little bit about that, from learning from others. How many of you have a mentor and or have been mentored, or you are mentoring somebody? So I was like, it was all inclusive because I totally expect all hands to go up. All hands. The value of mentors, these folks are on their chapter 19. They can tell you, watch out for page 5 of your chapter 1. Here's what I did. Here's where you may want to consider, pause for a second. Now, some mentors, their advice can be a little outdated, but this is where I actually rely on a board of advisors. I have more than just one mentor at one time. I get a couple of folks because they allow me to get perspective from everybody. And this is what I love seeing from this summit, is that I've watched you all get perspective from others. You're creating your own board of directors as we speak. I want to encourage you to capitalize on that. The thing about mentoring, though, is that I have some cautionary points about getting advice and asking for advice. So let's talk a little bit about asking for advice. Don't be this person, please. This is the person that hounds you, or you're hounding your mentor, and you ask, well, what should I do? Should I do this? What do I do this? And then you do the opposite. That's not a good way of building relationships. That's not a good way of maintaining a relationship. I will remove the names of the guilty. Recently, I had someone where she needed some advice on negotiating for a brand new job, different company. And she was like, what should I do? What should I do? And she was hounding me. But there was something in her voice, something in her description. I asked her at every point, do you want this job? She said, yes, I do. I want this job. At the end of the day, got her a title bump to a manager position. At the end of the day, coaching her, she got negotiated a $20,000 increase. And she wanted more. And I said, okay, I mean, you could ask for it, but why? You just got a huge bump that you didn't even think you could have. And they said, we can't do any more. Can you make your decision? I need the weekend to think about it. I said, no, we need your response by Friday, because you've had the whole week. We gave you the advice. We gave you the number. Can you do it? Do you want the job? And she's like, I need the weekend. I don't want to be pressured. I said, okay, well, what are you feeling pressured about? And she's like, there's just so many factors I need to think about. I said, well, what are those factors? Well, that's just it. I have to think about it. I said, well, let one of those factors be that they will rescind the offer. Guess what they did? They rescinded the offer. And now she's still in a position that she is not happy about, and she does not have that $20,000 bump. I'm just saying, hashtag, I'm just. Then there's receiving advice. There are some warning signs. There's some things that you have to be careful about. There's the unsolicited advice. Usually comes in the form of, what you need to do is, that one gets me. Or follow your passion. Now, I cringe at that word, only because some of us are really good at what we do, but we don't necessarily have a passion about it. And I think the word passion is overused, and I catch myself sometimes using it. Has anybody ever looked up the word passion? It is an uncontrollable, intense, burning sensation. I don't know about you, but if I have an uncontrollable, intense, burning sensation, I'm not running to it. I'm looking for medication to get rid of it. Then there's do what makes you happy. Oh, happy is a fleeting moment. Contentment, joy, satisfaction. You have a little bit more balance with that. But saying things, do what makes you happy, I really do enjoy teaching project management fundamentals and the PMBOK. I know. But sometimes I'm not happy to get up at 5 in the morning to go through DC traffic. Sometimes I am not happy to think about, I have to quote page 555 about how the process groups overlap. But I am content about doing a very good job and being very good at what I do and teaching a very complicated topic into a very basic, common level language so that people can pass the exam. I'm content about that. Then there's YOLO. You only live once. You only die once, too. Just want to make that, just making that clear. And then there is you're limiting yourself. So I heard it earlier during the DPM, career panel. Some of us are really good at where we are. Stop trying to make me do something different. I don't want to be senior director or VP. I am a kick-ass project manager, and this is where I want to be. Y'all with me on that? So know where you want to be. What does success look like for you? And then with our last mile marker, it's about finding your tribe. And one of the biggest ways, and I heard it earlier from Philip, networking. Now I admit, networking makes me break out in hives. But it's a mindset because I stopped thinking about it as a way to grab how many business cards or how many QCR codes for LinkedIn. Now it's about having authentic relationships. And I go to conferences where I know I'm going to learn something that I'm interested in, and then I'm going to meet people. And I commit to, if I just meet 3 people where I have a solid connection, where we are committed to keeping in touch, that's groovy to me. How many of you are like that? Yeah. So I try to make sure I go to the conferences and go to the meetings where I know I'm going to have an awesome time. So I did a Google search last year, and I typed in best project management conferences, and guess what showed up? Not mine. The Harry Potter fan conference. No, just kidding. The Digital Project Management Summit. Brett, he deserves a big hand for that one. I have myself experienced where I can find my tribe, find the people who have my back, who can relate to me and my challenges and my wins on my projects. Now, I know networking for some people is still kind of like creepy. So, one other aspect of it is find an accountability partner. If there's one person that you connected with, find that person to connect with, keep in touch with, hold you accountable for your goals. Remember, that's what it's about, having those goals for ourselves. So in your notes, what does that mean to have an accountability partner? Well, find someone who you trust. Talk about your goals, whether it's for the quarter, the next 6 months, for the year, and be specific. Get specific about the action steps that you're going to take. So if you meet on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, what are the specific action steps you're going to take to meet your goals? You know, kind of break it down to a WBS and then just set up regular check-ins. I'm giving everyone like PTSD here. Set up regular check-in times. So just as you have every Tuesday at 10 a.m. with your daily stand-up meeting, have a regular time so that you can stay on top of it. So with my accountability partner, we meet every Thursday, 9:30 a.m., 30 minutes. And we stuck to it for 4 years. And the last item for your notes, revisit your goals and strategies so that you can stay on track. Because you might find that plan A may not be working, but your accountability partner is here to help you Well, what do you need to do to get to plan B? And the last item around finding your tribe, most important for me, my family and friends. Now, this isn't my family. You see the footnote, right? This is it's not my family. I thought it was a cute picture. My family and friends are the folks who really, they have my back, and I want to do the things, take the jobs, take the assignments that support them because they supported me. I've had plenty of girlfriends say, I miss you. Where have you been? And I'm like, oh, I'm so busy. I get it, life happens. But they were there with us from the beginning. Why not continue to be with them as well? So before I kind of close up, I have a little scenario for you. It's a Monday afternoon in late October, wink, wink. You are making your way to your hotel room after a long day at a conference when your cell phone rings. You fumble around for your phone in your backpack. Hey, it's me. I need you to pack your bags. We're flying down to Belize for the next 5 days. I'll tell you all about it when you get here. We may get the deal, says a familiar voice. You think about your upcoming deadline with work. If it's not complete by next week, you're toast. You also think about the deal. What if it doesn't go through? What if it does? Do you drop everything and go to Belize? Turn to page 45. If you plan to return to work next Monday, turn to page 5. I hope this was helpful for you and kind of evaluating where do I want to be with my career. And what I've learned, what I've shared with you, is that when I stop comparing myself, especially when I don't know the full story, when I instead focus on examining myself, my strengths, my talents, my weaknesses, what I value, when I take the lessons learned, not only from some of the missteps, but also from my accountability partner. She's been the person at chapter 19, when I've only been in chapter 1 and starting my business. And when I find my squad, my tribe, those people who have my back, I'm able to be more focused and have inner peace with what I'm doing. And this is my encouragement to you, is that when you find what works for you, find the values that works for yourself, recognize that you are the star of your career journey. And most importantly, I hope that you find kindness, that you are kind, and that you choose joy. So this has been fun. I think we do have time for a few questions. But this is my information. I'm social like a mofo. But here's what you do. Please connect with me. And especially on LinkedIn, when you send me a message, make sure you say, hey, I saw you at the DPM Summit, and that was the best presentation ever! Then I know you're a legit presenter or participant of the meeting. So with that, I am done.
So we do have about 10 minutes for questions, and I want you all to hang around because I've got some announcements to make after we're done. But who's got questions for Crystal? By the way, amazing. So much energy, like the best way to end day one. Awesome. Questions?
That was weak. Whoa! That was great, right? I need that.
Hi.
Yes. Oh, yes.
So a lot of times people pivot out into project management into related fields, still utilizing their project management skill set, but maybe for other things. Do you have any advice when it comes to advocating for your capabilities versus your qualifications? Because sometimes we have capabilities that aren't quite reflected by our qualifications.
So I guess in short, it depends on the job, obviously. I will say, hands down, and this is my heart and soul of my business, is the soft skill side. So that's transferable anywhere. People appreciate and value that you know how to communicate, that you have emotional intelligence, that you recognize the strengths and weaknesses of others. So that's transferable everywhere. Ideally, if you're trying to do a complete hard switch into maybe a different industry, that definitely takes a lot of networking and talking to people, kind of putting yourself out there. So this is where maybe volunteering with a trade association or a group of some sort. So for myself, of full transparency, my background's also always been in hospital administration. I've recently transitioned into the biotech. And I'm not a scientist. That is taking a lot of effort on my part to go and network with folks in the industry. And I've started seeing some traction, but if you show that curiosity, you show your personality, as we heard earlier, be big, be unapologetic, this is where you can get some traction. So it all depends on your patience and how fast and furious you're willing to do it. Sometimes it can happen in a heartbeat. Sometimes it's going to take some time, and that's where you have to be careful about. Maybe you've seen some colleagues who have been able to do the switch. They may have had a network of people already in the other industry. They may have gotten a certification in order just to prove that, yes, I can do it in this industry. So those are things to think about around that. Does that answer your question? Okay. You're like, yeah. Well, we can talk offline some more if you'd like.
Got a little more time. Any more questions? There's one here up front. Here, I'll run it up. I don't know why I'm nervous to throw this thing.
It's soft. Just practice throwing on people's heads and see if it hurts.
That user's manual or resource sheet that you had up there, was that mostly self-reflection? I saw Myers-Briggs on there, but was there any other tools that you use for people who maybe are still trying to figure some things out?
I love Clifton Strengths Finder. So from Gallup, they do a very good job. And usually if you've done it once, what their philosophy is that I think within 5 years, you wouldn't, they would say, oh, you already have an account. Because usually at the Clifton Strengths Finder, they feel very strongly that you probably won't change in some of your behaviors, or your tendencies, if you will. But I like that one. Anybody have others? Myers-Briggs, I'm like, it's changed over the years, but I really do like Clifton Strengths Finder. Anybody else have something? There's one at the top of my head that I can't quite get it out. Say it again? Ideogram? Okay, I haven't heard of that one. Learned something new. Put that on my list. The DISC assessment. So if you're a dominant person, if you're, supporter, something like that, cheerleader. That's not what C stands for. I think that's compliant.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Probably time for one more. Anyone? I think we're good. Again,
right.
Crystal, thank you so
Thank
much.
You guys. And please get a book.